Welcome everyone. Today we'll have a very exciting crafting guide for Last Epoch. Now looking behind me, I have written tons of notes for each use and also tricks and also method for each of the glyph, each of the ruins, and also where and also how to farm those. I also have some of my tips and also advices to be careful with and what to do with those items. But in order to give you guys the best summary, I also prepared some gears over here to be crafting live to demonstrate to you guys, and we'll go through the method and also process of crafting using all of the items that is available in the game. So quite excited to go through this one with you guys, and I've been preparing this one for a while testing everything myself. So coming over to our notes. Do be aware guys, this will be a very long video if I try to include everything, and we'll have future guide on crafting as well as I discover more tips. And it's likely I missed some of the cool combos with those combination of materials. So if you guys do have experience in crafting, please share with us in the comments so we can be learning from you. So we're going to start with the glyph first, but before we start, what I want to talk about is the concept of the base material for the items and also the concept of the forging potential, which we'll go through as we try to craft. And when you are crafting, you're pretty much looking for items that you can be wearing onto your character or items you can use to craft into legendaries. So jumping over to the glyphs over here, let's start with the glyphs, then we come over to the ruins. The first glyph is going to be the glyph of hope. This one is quite straightforward, and I'll just throw a shield in to show you guys. Let's say if I'm using a shield and I want to get higher block chance. While upgrading higher block chance, I should always have the glyph of hope over here, because a 25% chance to retain the fortune potential is amazing if you get lucky. Even if you don't get lucky, always having this on is a good practice. In the later stage of the game, you have so many of those glyphs, and I really recommend using this one whenever leveling up your affixes. Now there will be other times you'll use a different glyph, which I'll explain as we go. So for this one, I have 5% block chance. If I click this once, I go to 3%. Notice critical success, and I was able to preserve my fortune potential. That was pretty lucky. And also got upgraded on one of my other affixes. So having Glyph of Hope is one of the best use and most common use for crafting. So must remember guys, use Glyph of Hope whenever upgrading your affixes. Now the second glyph we're looking for is going to be the Glyph of Chaos. Now Glyph of Chaos is a little interesting because sometimes you want to remove a particular affix. But when the affix is at higher grade, this is a tier 3 affix, and you don't have all the affixes over here, it could be a little harder to remove this cold resistance, which I explain very soon with the Glyph of Despair. So instead of removing it, I can level cold resistance up while getting a chance of rendering this into something else. And this is a cool concept because you can get something nice like HP, elemental resistance, or you can get something you don't want. Oh, I got HP, that's not bad. I mean, it's not the best, but all of a sudden I have 55 HP. Notice that the HP is also upgraded from tier 3 to tier 4. So this can be some great early game crafting when you're just missing HP, elemental resistance, or HP percentage, or any particular resistance on your gears as you upgrade it with a different affix and roll into a different one. Now do be aware guys, this is very random. Now I am going a little faster on each of those glyphs because there's a lot of them. Now do be aware, if you guys want to read up, I also have additional notes that will be available for you guys. And here I also warn you guys, if you're going to use the glyph, of Chaos, and when you're going from level 4 to level 5, I'll do this again. Let's say if I don't want health, and I'm doing this again. And now if I click it, and if it renders into something else I don't want, this will be terrible. Because once you get to tier 5, I can't modify it very easily. Now I don't think I'll render this one because I'll keep the elemental resistance, keep the health, and maybe use this shield for a defensive shield. Now as we keep going, the next thing we have is going to be the Glyph of Order. This one is also quite interesting, and I don't think I use this one as much because I more prefer to use Glyph of Hope to preserve my crafting potential, which is very important in most stages of the game. So if I use the Glyph of Hope, what it allows me to do is, if we press Ctrl and also Alt, you can see the rows of your items. And you can see that my block chance is rolled 6 to 7, and my current block chance is 7. And what this particular glyph allows us to do is, it keeps the top row of the 7% as it upgrades, so it doesn't roll between the rows. So let's say if you max roll a stat, and you really want this stat, let's say if I want the block chance to stay on maximum. And while I'm upgrading, I'm going to keep this glyph and I'm going to click, and notice over here, my block chance is still the max roll on 9%. So this is the concept, but while using this one, you can't use Glyph of Hope to protect your fortune potential. Now the next glyph we have is going to be the Glyph of Despair. In order to use Glyph of Despair, we also understand the concept of why we're using it. So over here, I'm using this particular one as example. I have elemental damage, damage over time, chance of blind of hit, and also freeze rate. Let's say if I don't want blind on hit, and I want to get rid of it and free up a spot. So this is when Glyph of Despair is really useful. I don't have many of that, but we'll use one to demonstrate. I want to free up the spot. So if I click upgrade over here, there's a chance of upgrading this one to tier 3. There's also a chance of taking this one onto a sealed spot, which will free up, us to do other crafting. But do be aware, guys, there's two things that determine the rate of success of sealing one affix. The first thing is what grade of the affix you're sealing. The lower the tier, the easier it is. If this was a tier 3, it would be much harder. Tier 1, you're pretty much guaranteed to seal it. Tier 2, there's a small chance to fail. Tier 3, it's highly likely you'll fail. Second to that, if you're sealing affixes, if you have other affixes available, this increases the chance. If you only have 2 affixes, it's much harder to seal. So let me show you guys over here. I was able to seal it. So what's going to happen now is I will keep the chance on hit effect over here that is sealed, and this still works, while retaining all the other effects. And now if I come over to my prefixes, I can apply something else. Like let's say if I want to go minion with bow damage, or if I want to go with anything else I wanted, I can now apply a new affix. Let's say if I want to go with ignite, and now I can upgrade this one into ignite to allow me to do some damage over time. So this is a very powerful glyph, and if used correctly, you can be applying more affixes you want onto your gears. Now before I finish with this glyph, on the chance of you failing to seal the item, you will upgrade the item onto the next tier. And this gets dangerous because the higher the tier the affix it is, the harder it is to continue sealing it. And also Glyph of Despair are quite rare. So notice I have like 600 of hope, only 19 or 20 of despair over here. Now our final glyph is going to be the Glyph of Insight. This one is also quite interesting because this one will turn an affix into experimental affix. In case you guys are not sure what experimental affix, those are the item with a name says experimental on it, and usually they have special effect, including 12 different special effects. Now as an example of using the Glyph of Insight, what we want to do is we can use Glyph of Insight, changing this particular affix which we don't want into experimental affix. So here I'm looking at the warding gain from potion use because I don't kind of need that. But if I change this one, because I only have one, I won't use it for now. But I'll have a kind of silly demonstration for you guys on the next part, which I added in to show you guys what happens when you do this. And then after changing this one into experimental, we can then seal it with Rune of Research, basically free up another prefix spot. Keep in mind, guys, the Glyph of Insight only works on prefixes, and here let me show you guys a demonstration replay which I recorded later. The mistake I made in the next part is I shouldn't have done it onto intelligence, because this will replace the current prefix and change that into experimental. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a Glyph of Insight, try to make intelligence into experimental, and then we're going to seal intelligence to get some more stats onto these boots. So let me show you guys over here. So instead of turning an affix into experimental affix, rather you're rendering this affix into experimental affix. So this was the mistake I was having. So again, guys, using the Glyph of Insight, previously I made a mistake, so I took that part out. Using Glyph of Insight will randomize one of your prefixes over here into a random experimental affix. You will not turn the current one into experimental. Then what you can do is then you can use the Rune of Research to seal this one. So now I can seal the experimental affix to free up more spot. And then I can come back to intelligence again to get my intelligence. And then this way I have one extra experimental spot. This can be a method used for freeing up the space and then crafting something you wanted. But do be careful, this will be taking some of a fortune potential if you start to spend a lot while you're doing this method. Now coming over to the ruins over here. The first rune is quite straightforward. I'm sure you guys have used Rune of Shattering. Basically, you pick affix with some good you pick a gear with good affixes, and you shatter this one, you get the shards for it. I'll click and notice I got the shards for those. So this is pretty straightforward. And ideally, you want to look for shards that provide you with skill damage of your build. For me, I was looking for Cathartic Fissure, and this will allow me to get tons of shards for that. Using Shattering, I can then craft my gears into tier 5 with my core skills, which is quite important to know. Now the second rune we have is the Rune of Refinement. As for Rune of Refinement, you will be rolling affixes within the range. So let's use this round for example. This one only have one affixes, which I'll show you how I did it. So if I press Ctrl and also Alt, you can see this is a tier 6 affix rolling between 131 to 166. So the 61% is actually a pretty good roll. We don't need to reroll this. Let me find something that's a little lower roll. Let's see if I can find one. Elemental resist. Okay, let's try this one. So currently this shield have 39% elemental resist. The top tier 7 roll will give me 47%. So if I were to reroll this one using my Rune of Refinement, this will have a chance of rerolling elemental resistance higher. But this also have a chance of rerolling everything else with health and also block chance. Now it is recommended to not do the rerolling until you finish out your crafting with other affixes. But because I'm demonstrating this rune, I'll reroll here. But if you come over to our nodes, what you're gonna see is, I really recommend doing this one after you finish crafting with the rest of your affixes. So this way you can make a max after and keep your fortune potential for the important ones. So now let's reroll and let's see what happens. There's a chance of me rolling block chance to 8% of course, but the other two rolls with my affix are pretty low. So 39, 55, let's see what happens. So now I'm 37, 63, well the health got higher, elemental got lower. So because I have a lot, let's try one more. So 40 and 52, notice this is quite random. And this can be very gambling because you're rolling with a wide range in multiple affixes. And the biggest takeaway is, notice my fortune potential is getting lower. You need fortune potential, it takes 1 to 15 fortune potential. So this is why I recommend doing this one last, and only do this one if you have a lower roll on your affixes, because you can get even lower, which is the worst case scenario. Now the next rune we have is the Rune of Removal. This one is actually quite interesting and very powerful. So I was able to use Rune of Removal, remove all the other affixes so I can keep only necrotic damage. And by doing so, I will be able to craft everything else I wanted just because I can, because I remove everything else. So let me show you guys over here what I mean. So let's use this one as an example. Let's say if over here, what you can see is we have, maybe we use a shield. Sure, this is good. Let's use this one. So here we have a tier 6 damage over time, tier 5 elemental damage, and a freeze rate multiplier. Let's say if the gear came with chill on hit. I'm just doing this one. You don't want to do this one normally, right? And I want to get rid of chill on hit. And here, if I use Rune of Removal, I know there's 1 in 4 chance of removing this one, but there's also 1 in 4 chance of removing something I want to keep. Maybe elemental damage, maybe damage over time. This is a YOLO rune. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I don't think you can remove the sealed affixes. Let's try this once. I did get rid of one, but that was the freeze chance, right? So now there's only 3 affixes left to remove. If I keep doing this, ideally I can limit to the best ones so far and craft everything else, redo those. So let's try again. No, I was... oh, it lagged. I was like, huh? Oh, it removed my tier 6 affix. So notice the randomness, and the less affixes you have, the more chance of you removing something good. And I have talked about this in more details in one of my previous videos. So definitely come over here to have a look, because you can be crafting legendary items better this way using this method. The next runes we have is going to be the Rune of Discovery. Now personally, if you look at my notes, I feel this one is like a trap tier. Usually we don't want to get random affixes because we don't like randomness. We want to build ourselves. So when would this particular rune become helpful is when you're out of fortune potential and you need all 4 affixes so you can be crafting items onto a legendary. But that is still not recommended. Let's say if I have a tier 7 affix, tier 5 affix, and another tier 5 affix, or tier 4 affix. So let's say if I'm going to use the Rune of Discovery. What's going to happen is, I don't think it upgrades this one, actually I made a mistake. So it's going to give me random affixes over here, and the randomness, pretty much when I'm running out of crafting potential, Notice there's no crafting potential. Let's say if I only have one crafting potential, and also I don't have a way to get more affixes. If I press this one, this will give me 2 random ones, and all of a sudden I have 4 affixes, and then having 4 affixes is a requirement to craft exalted item into legendaries. But this is not even exalted because the rune of removal, right? So I don't think this one is that much useful. It is only useful in the early stage of the game, getting some really cheap affixes and also making use of an item with some good rolls and also getting some more affixes. Now, if you guys haven't seen my previous video, I even made a video to complain because I thought it's a bug. So what's going to happen is, because I'm actually Circle of Fortune, and rank 2 allows me Circle of Fortune to preserve items from the Circle of Fortune items. So 45% to preserve the Rune of Ascension when used on a Circle of Fortune item. I didn't understand this one correctly when I was making the video, and thanks to you guys, I understand what I mean and what it means. So let's say if I was going to use Rune of Ascendance on this one, this will not have a chance of preserving this item. But if I were to use Runes of Ascendance onto this item, there is a chance of preserving my rune, and I have 13 runes over here. 13 over here, right? If I get lucky with 45%, because this is the rank 3, notice the purple bar there next to the level requirement. This is a rank 3 Circle of Fortune item, and using it this way will give me a chance of preserving it. I don't think it preserved it. What? Did it just go down by 2? Really? Oh no, it got 1 back. So I think it's got a little thing here, but there's a chance of preserving it, and then you roll into a unique item or maybe set item. I don't think I got lucky. So this is one thing you want to notice with Rune of Ascension or Ascendance. Now the second thing you want to notice, I have a lot of tab open. Second thing you want to notice is that you can use simulators and to have a look at your chance of rolling into an item you want. So there I was using a wand. If I go for 1000 simulation, I was looking for Maya's Lost Soul. So there is a pretty sizable chance of getting me what I wanted, simply because this particular item rolls on the Runes of Ascendance around 13 to 14%. So if I were to get a lot of the so-called Fortune ones and start rolling with Rune of Ascendance, this can be a really good method of getting the unique items I wanted. Now again guys, we do have a unique target farming guide, which we explain this one in more details. Now the next rune we have is one of the rarest rune in the game. It's the Rune of Creation. What this does is this will duplicate the item you currently have, and while duplicating, it will bring your fortune potential to 0. And usually what you do with this is, if you find a godly item with multiple tier 6, tier 7 effects like this one, with a better roll of course, and not the dodge rating, and then if you use this particular item and lower its fortune potential, it has to have at least 1 fortune potential when you started, I believe. And then you can duplicate the item and then use this item for crafting, for using, or even sell it in the marketplace. So this is one of the most powerful runes, and I don't think I'll be using this one to demonstrate today. I'll be saving this one on a better tier item. Usually you want to be duplicating items with multiple tier 7 affixes, tier 6 maybe, or even 3 tier 7 affixes with some of the top rolls. Now finally, we have a belt which we'll be using with the final rune of Research. So what we're doing with Rune of Research is that we're going to be sealing an experimental affix on the item. So here we have experimental affix with the warding threshold. If I want to free this up spot with some other utility affix over here, I can use the rune to seal this one. This opens up things. Oh, perfect. I also got a rune job. Perfect. I want to show you guys. This opens up more chance of me to get some minion damage or minion health onto this belt to allow me for crafting. And you just saw over there, while using this particular Rune of Research, there is a chance of dropping a Rune of Insight. So the only way of getting the Glyph of Insight. The only way of getting more Glyph of Insight is to apply Rune of Research onto gears, and then there's a chance of getting your Glyph of Insight. So those two are combined. You first use this one, have a chance of using this one, and then using both of them for a better chance of crafting items. Now I think that summarizes everything. Oh boy, that took definitely longer than I thought. So before I finish, here's some summary notes of how to farm for your Glyph and also runes. Now do keep in mind guys, I do believe that the runes are much more rare than the Glyphs. So notice with my runes I have 12 and also 1, right? As for the Glyphs, I have tons of those. and you can be farming both of those from echoes in the monolith. Some of the echoes will reward glyphs, some of those will reward runes. So if I come over to my echo over here and I show you guys, and let's try to find a few with glyph or with runes. So notice this one will reward me with runes, and I'm putting my head over here so you can see the rewards over here. So you can see this one will have a rune reward, and sometimes there will be ones with a glyph reward, which I don't get to see it right away. This is a shard reward. Okay, we don't see the glyph reward. So yes, in order to get more runes, this is one of the best methods while having higher corruption and also having higher item drop rate. It's quite important. So notice that my current item drop rate is about 400%. And with higher corruption, this means I have a chance of getting better items, which is quite important. We'll be making more guides on farming with higher corruption as well. Now in terms of runes of research, this one's dropped from the Exalted major only. And you just saw in the replay, the Glyph of Insight is randomly dropped while using Runes of Research. And finally guys, if you're looking for Rune of Creation, this one is super rare. My friends were saying with high level corruption, stacking rarity, and also picking Rune reward is the best chance of farming this particular Rune. Now hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Oh boy, this took so long. And a big thank you to CB, Halfmind, Real NZ, and all my friends and also viewers for teaching me and also sharing me those methods. I'll be updating more methods for you guys in the future, but the video is already close to 20-30 minutes. So in the future, we'll look into what is the best time to be doing what action while crafting, to save more forging potential and to get more things out of your gears for the legendaries as well. Now before we finish, if you guys enjoy those Last Epoch guides, builds and also tips, make sure you subscribe for more builds and also guides to come. And all of the notes will be available in the links below. I have collected tons of notes for Last Epoch as we make more guides, and links will be available for you guys to have a look and also, just to read up on the things we talk about in the video. So yes, please subscribe and also stay tuned for a lot more Last Epoch content. And if you guys have any tips, any advice on the game, I'm still quite new to the game, so feel free to let me know in the game or in Discord so we can be learning together with you guys with more experience.